Brock Purdy has just passed Jalen Hurts as the MVP favorite in the NFL for this year. This is a guy who a year and a half ago barely made it into the NFL. Now he's above Patrick Mahomes. He's above Jalen Hurts. The 49ers just absolutely boat raced the Eagles. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Eagles hiring a head of security to take out 49ers players. We're going to talk about the NFC 1 seed. It's up for grabs at this point. This is all the things we're talking about on the pod today. Plus, we're telling you how you can win gift cards. We're going to give you gift cards for interacting with us. Let's go.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
It's the Triple Cross Podcast. I'm John at John J3X on all the socials. I'm here with Casey, the Niners fan man at Niners fan man on YouTube. We are gonna, here's what we do on this podcast. We give some things away. We give people stuff for commenting. All you got to do is comment. And if you have a good take, if you have a good, response to one of our takes, if you make us laugh, if you make us cry, if you make Casey, feel a little something in his downstairs region, anything, whatever you do, we're gonna pick our favorite comments every week, usually on Fridays, some of our favorite comments, and we give away some gift cards for NFL memorabilia. Casey, your 49ers, it's time for you to do a little victory dance. We're going to dedicate a whole episode to Casey dancing. Throw on some Genuine, and you can just get down in here. 49ers boat race the Eagles, and Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, making $1 million a year, less than $1 million a year, living with a roommate. He is the favorite to win the MVP.
Pretty cool, huh?
It's pretty cool. Is it surprising to you? Let's start there.
I mean, I'd be disingenuous if I said it wasn't surprising to me.
No, I knew all along. I told them they should pick him.
I think it's fair to say that I was among the very first people who were on board the Brock Purdy as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL train, because I think I said that last season, first time I said that. Not a lot of people were on board with that. Even I didn't see him ever reaching even the front-running position in the MVP race at all this season. Nobody saw it coming. Although I will say everybody predicted all of the weapons for San Francisco would do so great. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, everybody who's super good on the team. Very talented roster. Tebow Samuel, can't forget him. With that, nobody anticipated the quarterback who is in charge of distributing the ball to these guys. Nobody figured that all those receiving yards they were going to get were going to equal passing yards for him. Maybe that's on the back of there's been a controversy at quarterback every year for the last, I don't know how many years.
They're going to somehow catch footballs that nobody throws. Just I don't know. We're gonna have the center throw them or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this came down to people weren't sold that Purdy would actually hold on to this job still coming into this year. And now that we've seen that is true. He's going to hold on to this job if he's healthy. It would take a long time for him to lose this position now.
Sure.
So I think he's now in this tier of player. I mean, say it's the people around him, say it's the scheme, say it's just the overall talent on the roster, whatever you want to say. Brock Purdy is an elite level quarterback, and there's no denying that. He leads so many categories in passing. It's ridiculous.
So I think the people's biggest sort of criticism of Brock Purdy is that it is the scheme. It's the people around him, that he's not actually that good, that skilled. So let's go back to a comp that we make a lot, and we made maybe 3-4 weeks ago on the pod, and we both were kind of on one side of it. The other side, the opposite side of the Purdy side, is Kirk Cousins. If the situations were flip-flopped, Kirk Cousins is in Brock's situation, Brock's in Kirk Cousins' situation, who actually looks better there, or who looks better where? And of course, the recency bias, we were coming off of a Vikings win over the 49ers, a little bit of an upset. And we both kind of landed on, you know what, maybe Kirk Cousins looks a little bit better with the Niners, and Purdy doesn't look quite so good with the Vikings. Even if that's true, that doesn't take away from the fact that he's an MVP candidate. But where do you sit now? You've seen a few more weeks of Purdy. Is this something that you're like, I don't know, well, it's kind of a moving target, and now I've got him back up above Cousins? Of course, Cousins hasn't really played that since then.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Cousins, it's kind of irrelevant, right? Because we can't judge what Cousins will be the next time we see him. It's going to be following an Achilles injury. which is about as tough as a thing historically. Sans Aaron Rodgers situation is
No,
historically one
yeah.
of the toughest things to come back from.
Aaron Rodgers just throws ayahuasca at it, rubs it all over. Ayahuasca, like just rubs it on the Achilles, and then does some kind of meditation with his legs up in the air on his head, and then it magically heals Achilles. Nobody else can do that though. He's the only person.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean crazy stuff that he's doing, but this is not about him. So Kirk Cousins being the comp to Purdy, I think I land where I did before. If Kirk Cousins were magically healthy and on the 49ers, he'd be in the MVP race, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
But give Purdy the benefit of the doubt that it's his second year in the
he's
league.
younger. He
He's a
costs
better
way less.
prospect. He's way better deal. He's way better prospect. I think it's the same argument, but I think I'm just presenting it from the other side this time, where there is no situation where I'd rather have Kirk Cousins, really.
I mean, it'd be like a very win now kind of thing, right?
I don't
Because
even
it's like he's
know
expensive.
that
I don't know if you could even afford him and keep all the team that you have.
well, you couldn't. You definitely couldn't, but I don't even
So
know that
no.
even if we could have him just
So it's a
straight up
hard no
swap,
then.
I don't even know that I would. I mean, Purdy's looking so good.
Yeah.
It's tough to beat the 49ers as they are. Why would you want to mess with anything? So,
No, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, like maybe you get a slight upgrade if you go to Cousins, but why? Like, I don't think you need a slight upgrade, honestly.
yeah. Yeah, and it
And
won't
plus,
happen. So he's here to
yeah,
stay.
he's
Brock
not.
Purdy.
But also, yeah. So this was an interesting experience that I had this week, and my dad was in town, and we're watching this Niners Eagles game. And I was like, yeah, Brock Purdy makes less than $1 million a year. He's still living with a roommate. These are the kind of fun social media things to throw out there about him, of course. And my dad, I wonder if this is, I don't know, maybe give place to the casual take here. But like, my dad was like, I wouldn't risk my body, like, I wouldn't do that if I was making that much. I'm like, well, I don't think they're even allowed. I mean, I think they're paying him the most they possibly can. But it's interesting. When is Brock Purdy's contract up? And what are we thinking here? Like, is it going to end up being like, okay, now this guy's about to get paid, and that's going to really change the DNA of the 49ers at that point?
Definitely. I think that Purdy is a guy who the jury was out on coming into the season, whether he'd be the real long-term quarterback, meaning like they re-sign him into a long deal. I think that is gone now. I think he's for sure the target there. He has 2 more years on the deal, so we don't even need to like worry about that too much either. There's going to be a lot of big contracts that lapse in that time. So there's going to be a budget made for Purdy. And it's going to come relatively naturally with 2 more years to plan. It's not a big deal at all. But he'll be making $1 million next year and then 1.1 the year after. So he's going to get over that.
Get over that million hump. Get over that milli hump. That's the hardest one. That's the hardest one to get over. I hear. Once you're making $1 million a year, then it's not so hard after that.
Before we kind of wrap and move on to the next section here, just looking at the MVP race, because this is kind of what we were talking about in this
start of the season. I think Pat Mahomes odds-on favorite, correct?
Sure. Sounds good to me.
Sounds
I don't know
right.
for sure, but I think so. That sounds fair and accurate. Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott are the 2 guys kind of at the top of the heap. Jalen Hurts is in there too. It's a 3-man race, basically, especially if you're only looking at quarterbacks. Of course, if you open it up to other positions, there's Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey involved. Odds-wise, those guys are further down even than some other quarterbacks, but I think they're in the discussion nonetheless, because I think there's a real cliff after those 3 first quarterbacks. So it's either one of those 3 quarterbacks or one of those 2 other guys. Feel pretty good that the Niners have 2 of them. But here are the odds real quick. Depending on this fluctuates a little bit depending on the book you're looking at, but Purdy's anywhere from plus 250 to plus 350 odds. That is collectively the best. Prescott is anywhere from plus 300 to plus 350, so not far behind. He's tied with him on a bunch of them, but Purdy edges him out on a few. Jalen Hurts would come in at anywhere from 325 to 400, actually. The front runners by quite a bit. Pat Mahomes, even on the most favorable book, he's at plus 600 odds, and it ranges all the way up to plus 900. So that's a pretty steep drop off to there.
Yeah, I mean, probably, probably some people we should address here, honestly, are Probably Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen seem like the most notable. Like, where are they in this race at this point in the season? You would expect that they would be there. Ironically, two teams that are one of these two teams is going to get a win this week because they're going to play each other. But Chiefs incredibly disappointing over the last 4 games or something like that. They lost to the Packers, dude. Now given the Packers have now won 2 in a row, like that they shouldn't have won. They beat the Lions and the Chiefs. So now I don't know what to do with the Packers. But the Chiefs are on a skid. Is this a Niners like skid where I don't know, it's just some weird blip and we're gonna figure it out and it's gonna be fine? Or are we like just kind of seeing the symptoms of hey, you can't be a one-dimensional offensive team?
No, I think so. I tend to think that on these perennial teams that have success every year, it's just a matter of time before they kind of figure it out. And it's honestly this part of the season, also the same as with the Niners. It's not a bad time to have a few bad matchups,
Yeah.
a few bad games, because you want to go into the playoffs with a head of steam, and there's still a few weeks to do that, even if they drop a game here and there.
Yeah.
You really want to have a nice little winning streak worked up by the time you go into those playoffs, though.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Niners.
Yeah,
We were already talking about Brock Purdy. Let's talk about the Niners at large here. The media going all over the place on these guys. My first question before we get into the Eagles' plan for stopping the Niners, they were unconventional with it. I will give them that. We'll give them that. They tried some weird stuff. But before we get into how the Eagles tried to do it, how the Eagles tried to get weird with it with the Niners, I want to get the insight from you on like what was that 3-game skid? Like what happened there? Because as a fan, does that worry you to say like, oh, we can just do this sometimes? Like, what is this? Or was it like, oh no, I can kind of explain that away? Yeah, I mean, let's just start there.
The Niners have maybe the most talented roster in the NFL. Not a lot of
Right.
people like hard argue against that. Like they're in contention. A lot of people would say the quarterback isn't the most talented. I think if you remove quarterback position, all the other positions considered, all the other position groups,
Yeah.
there's no holes in the roster. We talked about it briefly before this, and you were asking me what might be their weakness, and I said that's kind of the strength of this team is there's literally no glaring weakness.
Right.
But with that kind of roster, there's a lot of superstars, right? And that's another thing people wouldn't argue. Lots of star power on this roster. What's it like when you lose some of those stars, though? Most teams don't have this many. So if we lose 1 or 2, we just look the same as most teams, right? It's more complicated than that because that 3-game skid, it coincides perfectly with 2 guys missing 3 games.
Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a guy like Deebo, he just showed out in this last game. I don't know if you saw it. He had a hat trick himself.
Yeah.
He did really good. Really,
yeah, he housed one
guy.
when he didn't even need to. Housed the dagger touchdown on their last possession.
That's the kind of animal Deebo is. I mean, I was in a live chat during that game, and I was just chatting like Deebo touchdowns just look different. Like he gets into the end zone in a different way. I mean,
just it's a simple tunnel screen, yet somehow, there he is.
Yeah, and I mean, even like the contact that he's going to maintain through the goal line starts at like the 6-yard line, and you're like, nobody falls forward like that and takes 3 steps forwards, except for maybe like CMC, who's on the same team, which is scary. But anyway, I mean, without Deebo and Trent Williams, who really makes the whole O-line go and a lot of the blocking schemes work, without them, they're really a different team. I think Trent Williams probably impacts it even more than Deebo because you can get some other skill positions guys, working and going. Ayuk, Kittle, CMC. But without Trent Williams, it's a pretty different team. Less time for Purdy, less opportunities in the run game. So it really matters that we keep him healthy in particular. I would say that's one of the keys to success going into the playoffs is Trent Williams has to be healthy. We're still contenders without him, but we're not nearly the like powerhouse number one obvious team.
I guess that's maybe a concern to me, for you as a fan is we're not talking about CMC was out. You know what I mean? We're not even talking about Brock Purdy was out. We're talking about Deebo, look, you just said 2 guys who are really good. I'm not trying to like downplay who Trent Williams is or who Deebo is, but most teams, like at the end of the day, it's like we're going to have injuries. If we can avoid injuries to like our 2 or 3 guys who make the offense or defense run, right? So as long as we still have Bosa and Warner, as long as we still have CMC and Purdy, like we can weather whatever other injuries. And it seems like maybe the Niners, that would be the one Achilles heel they can't, is that it's like there's a lot more guys that can really make them a lot worse if they get injured. And maybe that's not true of all teams, but I think that's kind of how the NFL's built these days.
I think there's still only two guys where it really derails the whole plan, though. There's a lot of guys who affect it quite a bit. I mean, we already lost one for the year in Talanoa Hufanga, probably the best, one of the top two guys in our defensive secondary. Big playmaker, a lot of turnovers accounted for by him on the defense. So we still look fine without a guy like that, although he'd make us look better. I think it really is Trent Williams and Brock Purdy are the two, and they're kind of the unsung heroes, O-line. I mean, by anybody who pays attention to O-line, Trent Williams is kind of regarded as the best offensive lineman in recent memory. And with the way the game has changed and all the new rules, a lot of people say he's the best O-lineman there ever was. He's just a physical freak, and he's a master of technique, and he's been doing it for like 15 years. So, who does all that stuff? And we saw last year the importance of the quarterback being healthy for the 49ers.
Right.
Not just anybody can do it, how we thought when Brock Purdy came in, like, oh, at the last pick of the draft can do it. Anyone can do it. We saw for sure Josh Johnson can't do it.
Nope.
We've seen a lot of guys not be able to do it. Brock Purdy is important. Trent Williams is the other one. Those are the two guys you can't have on the injury report, I think.
Okay. And they had one on the injury report. All right. So you're feeling okay. You're feeling okay about the skid. All right. So the Eagles tried something a little bit weird. I did not actually see this. I was watching the whole game, but I did not actually see this. There was an incident. Looks like Dre Greenlaw kind of had a hit toward the sideline and got into it with the Eagles head of security. They had a little kerfuffle, or a jerfuffle, I think you put in my notes here. Little jerfuffle between these two guys. What happened here? Explain this to me, because I missed this. I must have been, going to the bathroom or something like that.
Yeah. So I'll try my best here. So basically there was a tackle on the near the sideline on just a routine play. Can't remember if it was a pass or a run. That's irrelevant. We'll just kind of play it through here, and we can say.
Yeah, so if you're on video, we got a little background video, but we'll talk it through as well.
So for context, Devontae Smith here, number 6 for the Eagles, the receiver. What you need to know is earlier in the game, the Eagles converted a 3rd and 19, I think it was, when Devontae Smith caught just a little nothing pass and broke a tackle or two when a play looked over, and he converted a first down, right? So in this play, something similar was going on where I don't have the whole play here. Couldn't find a great copy of the whole play. But Fred Warner, I think, is the one involved, and they're kind of like wrapping him up, but he's not going down. Dre Greenlaw shows up at the ball right here, and this is where we pick up here. Dre Greenlaw comes in and really puts the definitive, like, no, you're going down. And that happens. He pulls him out of bounds. This was all inbounds. This wasn't out of bounds hit or anything. He did get flagged for like the suplex, which is deemed unnecessary roughness, which, man, I mean, you and I were wrestlers back in the day. I guess you can qualify this as a suplex based on how he's got him wrapped up here. But the way he pulls him to the side there,
that's very
really
safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's super weird that this is flagged, in my opinion. Anyway, but okay,
especially if he wasn't going down,
Exactly, and it mattered earlier in the game, but context hardly ever matters to the refs, right? So anyway, this guy here, this is the other guy in the story. This guy's name is Big Dom. I don't know
Big Dom.
His last name doesn't matter really, but
Philly Dom.
He is the head of security for the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you're not familiar, it's not normal that they'd be right here.
What? Yeah. What is he doing so close to the field? First of all.
Well, so during the actual broadcast and in a lot of the first takes after this, they were talking about him like, oh, Dre Greenlaw getting in the face of this like Philadelphia Eagles coach. Because he looks like a coach, right? He's got the earpiece in. Coaches have those. He's got the earpiece in connected to different people though. He's talking to other security guards and stuff. Like, it has nothing to do with it. He's right on the sideline. His feet right now, by the way, are on the white stripe. So he has, in my mind, there's a lot of debate going on right now about this particular thing. Is the white line part of the field or not? Did he come onto the field to meet Dre Greenlaw, or did Dre go off of the field to go talk his shit to this court?
And do you think that matters?
First, I don't really think it matters, but I do think that if this guy came onto the field, it's more egregious. Like, it's even more wrong.
Yeah.
So you'll see here, we got to go slow, but you'll see kind of the initial thing. So this, I believe, is his hand already, right? He comes in, he's here to break this up. By the way, head of security, pertains to like fans and like other things outside of the game,
Not a
head of security
player.
never is involved with
I have
players
never
stuff like
seen a
this.
player head of security come break up a fight between players. And
Right. Some
players get into scuffles a lot.
Right. And players do and coaches do, right? And we
Yeah.
kind of let that slide. Anybody outside of that, and refs, but anybody outside of that, we don't usually give them the opportunity to. So I'm actually going to drop this into slower speed because I keep just wanting it to go slower. All right. So you can see his hand here, and it doesn't look like a lot, but Devontae Smith is over here. He's already kind of pushed out of the way, right? And he's
Right.
still got his arm on Dre Greenlaw here, and he's pushing him. He's looking at him. And I think you could hear what he says, if I'm not mistaken, on the broadcast. You can see he says something to him. He says it's bullshit what you were doing. He says bullshit. I think he thinks it's a late hit, right?
Right.
It's bullshit to do that. I don't think anybody in lifetime that suplex, sure, maybe you can say it was a penalty, but like it's hardly worth like anything escalating over that. I would say it's hardly an illegal hit if it is. And he's pushing him in, and he's saying it's bullshit, pushing him off of him. And Dre Greenlaw already at this point, the hand's coming out, and people are calling this a punch to the face. This is why he got ejected. He punched the guy in the face. First of all, I don't know if you know this, but Dre Greenlaw is an incredible athlete, and I don't know one athlete that I've ever met in my life who would even dream of throwing a punch like this hand upwards like this. I mean, this isn't a real punch that's thrown. Also, it's kind of like he's just kind of like getting in his face, trying to be annoying, like, yeah, get out of here kind of thing. Definitely not. If you want to see that again, he does make contact with his face, not excusing it, but like I wouldn't call it a punch to the face, just by like the motion. This guy put his hands on him first. You can say it wasn't like forceful, but he shouldn't have been anywhere near the play. That's like unprecedented that anybody else would get involved. So I think Dre Greenlaw. Oh, here is how you can see he was wrapped up. He wasn't going down. He's still fighting for yards. He's gained probably 2 more yards since the initial contact happened. And Dre just takes him out of bounds, right? Mm-hmm. I don't see anything wrong with this play. I don't like that somebody who's not a player or a coach or a ref touching the player. And I don't even care that Dre kind of does something, to the guy's face, honestly. He should never have been there. And they both get ejected. And I think that's the scariest part of the whole thing is that if you can have a non-player, non-coach, just non-essential staffer getting all pro linebackers or any player for that matter, ejected from the game, what's to stop any team from just lining their sideline with a bunch of professional shit talkers who are technically a part of the team, just so they can have clearance and just getting players ejected. I don't like it. What do you think, John? Now that you kind of know the situation.
Well, this is how you stop the Niners, apparently. This is how you make the San Francisco 49ers lose. Not really, because they didn't lose, but I don't know. I think that's kind of from a logic argument standpoint, it's a snowball argument to say like, oh yeah, this is a playbook now. And if teams started doing it, there would probably be some level of corrective action of you can only have so many coaches on the sideline or only so many personnel people on the sideline or something like that. So I don't think it would get to that extreme. I will react to just this individual scenario and say, it seems like a soft reason to throw either of them out, honestly. Yeah. Other than the security dude was just in a weird place, in my opinion. Like maybe heads of security are always that close to the field, but like he kind of seemed like he was just being a fan at this point. You know what I mean?
I think that's exactly how I would phrase it. And I think that's what's the most concerning is like the coaches, the players, the refs, they all do this dance every week. They know what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Once you get somebody mixed in who, sure, I'm sure he's paid by the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, he's not a part of this structure. We're bringing in a whole nother group of people who he is acting like a fan here. I mean, he is. When you're pulling one guy off of your guy and you're talking crap to him, like you're acting like a fan. You're reacting based off the way the game is going.
Do you know what I think Dre did? I don't think he did. But I think he did like a little bang bang thing. Like
that is what he was doing. Yeah. He was doing a little like you're done kind of thing. Like
like bang, get out.
Yeah. That was it.
Yeah. No, he was just kind of showing him like, whatever, I could take you out or something like that.
Yeah. It was a weird gesture to be.
It was weird. It was weird. It's weird that he got it. I wish he would have just not done it, and because I get it. Touch the dude's face. it gets real hard to draw lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a face punch and a face touch? Where is that line? You know, it's easiest to just draw it out. If you touched his face with your hand, that's not, then that was like an assault type of action or a aggressive type of action. So I wish you would have just not done it, because I can kind of see the reasoning
But if you're
behind
defending
throwing him out
yourself,
for it.
right? I think any amount of touching, even legally speaking,
Yeah.
you have a right to like return the touch.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the like NFL ejections usually work, but usually if you're defending yourself in the NBA and you do something like that, you're both just going to get thrown out, you know?
Right, but usually it's not some guy who has nothing to do with the game
Yeah.
either. If it was two players, sure.
Sometimes they run up into the stands, Casey.
Sure, but I'm not trying to bring it just to the slippery slope argument.
Right.
But it does change things considering this guy isn't. I mean, if this was just a full blown fan, like how would this go? Like it would.
I don't think either of them should have got tossed. Honestly, it seems like stupid. I think we could still be having the commentary about like, why the heck was that security guard there? I guess we wouldn't be having the commentary if nobody got thrown out, but I guess I just don't know. How normal is it for security guards to be that close to the field? I've never seen them try and break up a fight before, but maybe they usually are that close to the field. I have no idea, man. Like to me, it reads like he was just being more of a fan. If anything, he seems like he was the one doing weird stuff there. I tend to not think that it's gonna snowball into, you know, people just hiring personnel to like professional shit talk, and I don't really think that's gonna happen. But it is a weird precedent that they both got thrown out. Like that's a strange precedent to set, and it's actually just strange that Greenlaw got thrown out. Period. It's strange that both of them got thrown out. It's even stranger that Dre got thrown out, and it's even stranger that, like, if you think about it, this is what you could do. You know.
Yeah,
I'm with you on all of it. I think it's a fun argument, you know, that could happen, but I don't know that I think it will. You know.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
So whether or not it's setting a scary precedent, I don't like it, and I think they handled it wrong for sure. Again,
sure.
if he's not a part of the official, like the regular group of people who do these kinds of things, if it was just some random fan out of the stands, Dre Greenlaw is not getting punished at all for what he did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get like fans who go streaking or something on the field, and like sometimes players go as far as to like lay a hard tackle on them to try to be like, don't do this, and those guys get like cheered for doing that. So again, he's in this weird. It feels like a guy is way overstepping his bounds. You can't hear a guy, NFL like commentator or anybody in sports media give a take on this without saying like he's a really upstanding guy in the Philadelphia organization. He's been a part of the organization since 1999. Like, I mean, this is just over and over again. They're saying the same thing. They're already just leveling the landscape to say like, hey, we're not going to do anything about this, and hopefully it doesn't happen again, so we don't ever have to do anything about it, because we don't want to have to punish this guy. You know, we like him. He's an NFL guy.
You can bet there's some internal stuff about, you know, security guards, personnel. Where can security guards be? Personnel interacting with players and stuff like that. You can bet that there's some internal stuff going around the teams in the league like that. They're just trying to, you know, do that laundry in private instead of in public, probably.
Maybe. I don't know. I saw a lot of high fives got given to this guy and a lot of like fun joking around about it too. So it's kind of I don't know, kind of a little bit of a mess that they made out of it.
The reaction in the moment is different than like the recourse that happens. At least in my experience in athletics, it's like you have all of these internal meetings about like, don't do this or do this, or don't, like, here's a situation that happened and this is why we have this rule now. And you have a bunch of like little stupid internal rules that are, you know, you don't air them out, but internally, you know, hey, you're not supposed to do that. And I don't know if this might already be kind of across one of those, but maybe not. Maybe it's kind of unprecedented, because I've never seen a security dude interact with a player. That's a first. I'm glad I got to see something for the first time, if nothing else. Do you have anything else to say about it, or do you want to switch gears, talk about the NFC?
Let's talk about the NFC. Here I have the playoff hunt, as it were. Left side is the AFC, so we won't look at that. I was trying so hard
the
to find
AFC.
I was trying to find a way to format this so that we didn't even have to see that part, but I could not with the time given. So we're just looking at the right side here. The NFC number one spot right now is obviously the Eagles. They're 10-2. Niners just beat them, but they're only at 9-3. Followed by the Lions in the third seed with 9-3 as well. Cowboys also at 9-3 down here at the 5 seed, even though you can't see that. or they're not next in the order. I'm sorry. It's because they're in the wild card spot. Obviously, the Falcons right now are winning the terrible NFC South, so they get that
Freaking
4 seed.
NFC South, man.
Yeah, it's really, really
I
good stuff
honestly
they're doing.
wish. Tell me what you think about this rule. Well, I'm gonna get a little crazy with it. Maybe don't reject it right away, but I'm gonna get a little
Bring
crazy
it.
with it. Whichever team wins the division, like that is up for like there's some way that we make that up for grabs for another wild card spot if we deem them awful. You know what I mean? Like
under 500.
if you win the NFC South but you suck and somebody else from a different division actually just deserves a wild card more, like that's a judgment thing. We'd have to actually come up with the criteria, but I would love to see that. I would love to see the Falcons like not make it and we just get an extra wild card spot. Now the NFC does kind of fall off here. I don't know. Who knows what the Packers are going to do, man? But yeah, I don't know. I would love that rule.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could be something like like if they're under 500 or something, but
Okay.
I don't really believe. I mean, there's much of a chance that that'll ever happen. Personally, they're trying to get more teams into the playoffs. It seems like rather than make it harder for certain teams to get in, and they want representation across all the different geographical locations, obviously, because even though like Bucks fans hate the Falcons, let's say, right, division rivals,
we still want
if you
NFC reprepresentation. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you want the closest team to be like the Cowboys. I mean, that's pretty far off for a team from like the Southeast. So
yeah,
I mean, I get how it is, and honestly, kind of just
I'm probably just feeling like that because I'm looking at this right now and thinking the Vikings are going to fall out of this.
And they might not. So let's look at the wild card race before we kind of work our way back up at the top here. So obviously, there's teams at 6-6 who are not in right now. Yeah. I think that the Seahawks and the Rams. I mean, the NFC West is pretty good. They're kind of cannibalizing themselves in the division, but I do think the Seahawks will emerge here. The Packers seem like a flash in the pan to me. Really? I don't think that they can continue to beat teams like the Chiefs. I didn't watch that game though, to be totally transparent.
I watched some of it, and they look like they're coming together a little bit, and they did last week too. Like they're just kind of they're starting to figure it out a little bit.
It could be the case.
I don't know what their rest of their schedule looks like, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. That's kind of what we're looking at now. It's getting harder and harder for these other teams. I mean, I guess these teams are technically in the hunt, but anybody with 4 wins right now, I'm calling out.
Let me come back to the Packers really quick because the rest of their schedule, they got the Giants, the Bucks, the Panthers the next 3 weeks, and then the Vikings and the Bears. It's a very winnable schedule. So I think the Vikings could fall out and the Packers could be in and the Seahawks could be in as well. I don't know what the Seahawks schedule looks like, but Packers have a very winnable schedule from here on out.
I don't know the Seahawks full schedule, but I do know they have to go back and play the Niners again this coming week. So that is happening. And I mean, anything could happen, but I anticipate the Niners.
Seahawks have a tough schedule. They got the Niners, and then they have the Eagles, and then it's Titans, Steelers, Cardinals. But tough couple weeks coming for them.
If they can't get a good enough record to get in with those teams, then they probably don't deserve to be in. But I think they can pull out some wins for sure.
Based on schedule, I do think the Seahawks will get in. I think of all these teams, I think the Packers have the most winnable schedule, and I could see them actually winning enough to get in. The Vikings still have to play the Lions twice. And they might have the toughest schedule left. Them and the Seahawks have the toughest schedule left, but the Vikings are just banged up. We'll see what happens with Justin Jefferson back. Is Justin Jefferson what he is with Josh Dobbs? We'll see.
We'll see. The Saints lost Derek Carr. I'd say their playoff hopes are pretty much shattered now. I think Carr. You don't
think big Jameis can take him to the promised land?
That's not what I'd bet on for sure. I've been on the Bucks for a while now. I still think. I mean, they're only 1 game out from winning their division. They're not going to get a wild card spot.
Every week you ride with them, and every week they've been disappointing you.
Well, the Falcons are this 500 team. They're like my litmus test for what a good team is, and I think they're not that. I think they're not a bad team. They're right in the middle, and they play boring football. The Bucks at their best are much better, much more exciting football. At their worst, they kind of fuck it up though. The Bucks I think will get in because they'll win their division. But then we get into these teams that are 500 and above right now. I guess you can add the Falcons into that. I'd say the Falcons and Rams are the ones sitting on the outside. So I guess I do see the Packers making it in maybe.
Packers, Seahawks.
Oh no, I guess it's the Vikings could fall out because of the Seahawks. Maybe it comes down more to like the Vikings and Seahawks than I thought it did, because I agree with you. The Packers have a pretty nice schedule. but they could definitely lose some games anyway.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they're capable of losing on that winnable schedule for sure.
They've definitely had some embarrassing losses. So I don't know that they're fully there yet. Young, young quarterback, especially. They're far from anything guaranteed. Looking at the top
let's
here,
go
though,
back. Let's go back to the top because your Niners might grab the 1 seed. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the 1 seed, there's 4 contenders really, and then that's about it, right? Because we're sitting at teams with 6 wins, and then it jumps all the way up to teams with 9 wins. So not a lot of middle ground here. There are 4 teams: the Eagles at 10-2, Niners at 9-3, Lions at 9-3, and the Cowboys at 9-3. I don't know what the rest of their schedules are.
So Eagles do play the
Yeah.
Cowboys this week. Eagles get the Giants twice, the Cardinals and the Seahawks.
Yeah. So the Eagles, they have a pretty winnable schedule. They could lose to the Cowboys, probably the Seahawks in there. But they're probably not going to have more than 4 losses on the season. So the Niners would have to win out, I think.
Only traps on the Niners schedule. Only traps on the Niners schedule. I mean, the Seahawks can be kind of trappy for the Niners. But other than that, it's like the Cardinals, Commanders, Rams. Only real trap is the Ravens. That could maybe be a problem. So really winnable for them. At the top, the schedules are winnable, man.
So here's the other key thing. So let's say that it plays out like this. Like the Ravens, let's just say they do beat the Niners, right? Which we don't know, but let's say they do.
Yeah.
Let's say the Eagles do drop those 2 games to the Cowboys, and let's say the Seahawks, just for sakes. So the Niners have beat the Eagles and the Cowboys in the matchups they played. So they own the tiebreaker. So they would be the one when it comes to a tiebreaker. The Lions, I don't know who's played who. I don't know what the tiebreaker would come out. If the Lions are tied for the lead, I don't know how it shakes out, but
the Cowboys are sitting in a good spot. The Cowboys have the toughest schedule left. They've got the Eagles, then the Bills, then the Dolphins, then the Lions, and then the Commanders is their last game. So they've got a tough schedule to play out.
Yeah, not the easiest. They're going to be in though. They'll be in easy.
They're in. I don't think they'll grab the 1 seed with that schedule. I think it's going to be the Eagles or Niners. And honestly, if I'm looking at it, I do think the Eagles can win out on their schedule. Cowboys are the only real trap there. Because you got Seahawks, Giants, Cardinals. I think if they win this Cowboys game, they're probably going to grab the 1 seed. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say that the Niners beating the Eagles as bad as they did here, it shows how human they are. It shows a way that you can beat them. And the Seahawks, again, being in the same division, I think they could pose that same threat. They can run a pretty similar style, a lot of similar types of personnel, honestly.
Yeah, Walmart versions, though.
Strengths in different areas. We don't have a wide receiver. Our wide receiver 1 is Brandon Ayuk, who's incredible, but he's not DK Metcalf in stature. So a little bit different there. But personnel wise, we have a lot of value at the same positions. Geno Smith also not breaking the bank at quarterback exactly.
Right.
That's why he has a lot of skill position help.
Yeah, I still think I'd call it Walmart. I mean, DK Metcalf is good, but other than that, I think I'd call it mostly Walmart versions of the Niners. But yeah, I mean, maybe the Seahawks, but I'm certainly not going to pick them unless something changes between now and then. If you want the Niners to grab the 1 seed, then you're probably a Cowboys fan this week. Unfortunately,
yeah, you are technically, yes. Yeah,
you might, or maybe you're just like, nope, never. I don't care. We'll win from the 2 seed.
Yeah, we could. I mean, so just a reminder to everybody as we're wrapping this up. The seeding does matter. 1 seed gets a bye. They're the only team that gets a bye, each 1 seed, by the way, in each conference. Yeah. Again, we're just talking NFC. So as it sits, the Eagles and the Dolphins would both receive byes the first week of the playoffs. The Niners would be playing the bottom seed. So right now that would look like the Niners versus Packers, but that could adjust to just about anything, including the Vikings, the Packers, the Seahawks could squeeze in there, the Bucks. Like, I guess it wouldn't be probably the Bucks or the Falcons because they get the 4 seed automatically. Yeah. So it's probably like the Vikings, the Packers, the Rams, the Seahawks. End of list, honestly, as far as who is likely to be the number 2's matchup, the 7 seed and 6 seed as well. It's going to be some of those teams as well. So the Niners, they're going to play one of those 4 teams, probably just about whatever happens. I mean, I sure hope they don't fall. I don't see how they could fall past the 3 seed. I mean, hopefully that's not a homer take, but just feels like the math is tough to work out.
Knock on wood. Yeah. I agree. No, I mean, look, honestly, I think in my outlook on any of it, the bye is helpful because you have 1 less week of wrist injury. Aside from that, the best team can win from any seed. Like if you're good, you can win from any seed. And this is maybe just my basketball coming in. Like the best teams don't even care. They're just like, whatever, we'll take whatever seed we're going to get through. Doesn't matter who we face.
Even easier in football than basketball. You don't have to win a whole series, right? Any given Sunday.
Right.
Just one game.
Well, that's the pod. You can win gift cards by commenting on this video. Tell us what takes you liked, what takes you didn't like. What do you think is going to happen? How do you think the NFC is going to shake out? Do you think people could actually, like start just bulking up their security and just like hiring some professional shit talkers? Hire some comedians. They could hire some comedians, just come out there, talk shit to football players and get them ejected. Tell us what you think in the comments, make us laugh, do something like that. Also, if you want to, there's a private community who watches us record this show live on Playback. That is linked up, and we give the Playback people gift cards as well. So the Playback people get entered to win their own, like gift cards and memorabilia, NFL swag, stuff like that. So whatever we're giving away. So Playback folks are about to get in on that. If you're not a Playback person, you're watching this on YouTube, or if you listen to this on audio, go hit it up. Hit up the link in the description.